I mean, because today you have kind of reached not maybe the voicemail, but a podcast episode with Caspian and Helena, right?
Yeah, that is true.
That is true. So there's almost 2 hours of conversation with Caspian and Helena and Beverly, Frank, and Mayke. What have we done?
We reflected on this season of conversations, which you've had, where you've had five conversations with 5 different people speaking, or in this episode we speak about what's happened, both in you and in the participants throughout that time.
Yeah, and I'm quite happy. We tried to get all of us together, but we couldn't find a date where that worked. So Gary and Allison is yet to come, but we'll have a conversation with them too. Yeah, so enjoy as much as I have. This is fun. I'm looking forward to seeing what this is, but I've also kind of handed it over to Caspian to be the master of today, to do whatever he wants to do with it. But I did think it would be fun to get us all together, which turned out to be impossible. So at least we only have 3 of my conversation partners, and then there will be another recording with Allison and Gary. Yeah. So, Caspian.
Should I pick up from there?
Take it away, babe.
Babe? Really?
Well,
that was new.
Well, take it away. Kid
She's feeling particularly relaxed. She's feeling relaxed.
I am feeling relaxed.
So I think I've quickly spoken to all of you, at least via email. But yeah, I've been the one editing the podcast for those listening. Also the one urging and continuously nagging Helena to start this podcast. Taking a little bit of the credit for all of these conversations. For all of us, I would like to just start with a quick check-in to see where we're at and to sort of soft status update, because I know we're in different parts of the world, we're in different time zones, we're in different sort of moods and settings and all of that. So just a quick check-in of how are you? How are you doing? How's life?
You go first, Caspian.
Oh, I go first? I'm good. I've had 2 weeks of absolute shitstorm is probably the best word for it at work. Especially one of my clients has just been messy. A lot of numbers, a lot of work. So a couple of late nights, and yesterday and today have been quite slow, deliberately to sort of gather myself. So I'm in a rather slow mood, and I'm very happy that autumn is coming around. So I've been taking a couple of walks and enjoying the colors and the a bit colder air, which I really enjoy. I'm in a really good place. Handing it off to whoever wants to or feels like it.
I'll go next. I very much relate to the energy of lots of messiness over the last several weeks, and having a chance to have finally submitted I have a big stack of projects, and Friday morning kicked out one that just feels blah, like it just kept on going and going and going and going and going. And just when I thought I would have it sort of sorted out, it reemerged. But I think it's finally like kaput, out the door. It's no longer, there's a new beginning for somebody else, as Helena and I sort of invented that phrasing to replace another word. And yeah, the deliberate slowness, trying to pull that back, but the stack of projects remains, and the pull, to get to that and to do that remains. And that's just for the economic side of my equation. The pull for other projects remains and continues, as it always has, and continues to be a real balancing act for me. There's had some difficult news around people in my my kids and my wife, family members, and some friends going through some really tough stuff in the last couple of weeks. So I'm in their circle of concern and support, and so trying to do that. That said, I am feeling sort of brighter today. I slept 10 and a half hours last night for the first time I can't remember the last time I slept that much. So I'm feeling quite rested, looking forward to this. So that's for the moment where we are.
Okay, I'm also in a good place. I organized and created a lovely summer, so I've been away for weeks on end, and now I'm back for 1 week, and I love it. I love it to have time, for myself, and my season is starting again, and a lot of things start anew, happening. And there is one project I'm very, very focused on, and that's the one, let's call it today, becoming an adult and taking care of myself. And that's just to focus on good food and cooking really good food for myself. And it's right now, I need a lot of space, and I need a lot to learn. So never too old to learn. And I'm in a good place.
Nice.
Lovely, Mayke. I recognize both Frank's vampire project that will not die and the urge to have some very thoughtful self-care. I've also been learning new things and cooking, and they not only refuse to die, these projects keep morphing. So by the time I've finished, I think I've finished, lopping one head off. It's suddenly, there's a new one over here. So my work is constantly shifting. I don't even know what an end point is for some of these projects, because they're so ill-defined by the people who have the authority to assign them. So I found out 2 days ago or 3 days ago, whatever it was, that one of them I thought was going to be ending like sometime in February actually won't end until next June. I'm like, okay. I'm also learning to focus closer, to pay attention to what's in front of me, because one of the issues when you have so many different initiatives and too much to do is that nothing gets done because you're like, oh, I gotta. So focusing in one place at a time helps with some of that. So I'm semi-focused and looking for a large stake put through.
Good. That leaves me. I am. I had a big thing this weekend. My firstborn, born in 1999, so she's soon to be 22. She moved out from home on Saturday, which kind of came out of the blue Thursday night when one of her friends asked if she wanted to become her new roommate because her old roommate had said bye-bye. And so she took off on Saturday. So he's like, yes, because it's mission accomplished, right? I mean, this is kind of one of the big criterias for parenthood. Check that box, kid out the door. And she's ready for it. And both she and I know that. So she was kind of, when I said, woo, she was like, okay, well, you're not really sorry, are you? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm happy. Would you want me to be sorry? And go, oh, no, you cannot leave. And she said, nah, I wouldn't. So that's a really, really good thing. Besides that, I have started Project Apple Season. I borrowed her car Sunday and drove to my mom's place, picking more or less picking clean her apple tree. So I got home with, I don't know how many kilos, but like fairly big boxes, 5 fairly big boxes of apples. 2 of which are filled with perfect apples that will go up into the attic for storage. So I will have fresh apples for, I don't know, until February or March or maybe April even. But then there's 3 boxes filled with not perfect apples. So yesterday I started to dig in on those, and I have a batch of apple rings drying in the laundry room, and a lot of applesauce from yesterday, and I did another batch of apple rings and applesauce today. And I have like at least 1.5 of those boxes left, so I have a couple of days more work to do there. And my youngest came home today because he's moving in here now for his 2 weeks here. And he said, it smells like apples in here. It's like, yeah, it does. It smells lovely. And I'm looking forward to this. I'm kind of curious to see what this is, what this will be. And I kind of enjoy having all of us gather this way. So, yeah, eager. That's me.
Nice. That's amazing. So nice to hear from all of you. It really is. So when I asked you, Helena, what you wanted with these sessions, because I sort of wanted to see what you expected from these conversations. You said that you wanted us to speak about what has happened with each and everyone. Well, mainly you, because you guys have been in the conversations throughout the season of the podcast. What has happened with you from recording, from actually putting out. I don't know if that's a new thing for all of you. But also from the fantastic conversations, at least from the outside, that you guys have had. And so I sort of want to start out with the question of what did you guys expect from these conversations when you got the question from Helena? And yeah, let's start with that. What did you expect? Did you expect anything when Helena asked if you wanted to be in these conversations? And again, I'm so for the whole conversation, I'm gonna just throw out questions and then you pop when you're hot. Sort of, we're not gonna take rounds. I'm not gonna point you guys out. It's a lot more fun if you just pop it out.
Yes, I know I expected something. And before that, what happened was the first thing, I felt so flattered. I really earned more points because I know Helena, she knows a lot of people, and then she chose me. So something started on that already. And then what I expected was it's about meandering conversations and probably by not putting an end time on it. That's really, really important because then certain things what can happen. And then the meandering thing, I loved it so much already. It was not a conversation, it was not a meeting, and there wasn't any result. It didn't need to lead to a specific thing. And then it happened, and it's probably opening up deeper layers or something. So maybe it's about slow cooking. So the herbs and what's already there can come to the surface, and in other conversation you're not aware it's there. And there is a deep, deep longing inside of me to have more of that. It's creating. It's a bit of modeling and creating yourself and the other and a third part. That's for now.
For me, I was delighted that Helena asked, and then I was open to wherever we went. You probably heard in some of the recordings that I used to have these huge, long, rambling conversations with my dad, and it's something that I love reconnecting with because it is so elemental to have that chance to reflect with someone who will honestly reflect back. It's a lovely feeling that it's not an echo chamber, but it gives you a chance to hear what you're saying.
So for me, it was also, I had that same sensation that you talked about around, oh, she picked me. That was flattering. That was moving in its way. I also grew up in a household where conversations were really important. So both my parents were very, very good at it. My mother in particular, and I have missed their brand of it since they've passed. So this is a chance for me to add to my repertoire of people who are part of that experience that I have. And it's different. It's also a chance for me to evolve and develop my own version of this. And so there are a variety of things that have emerged over the course of the conversations. What I expected at the beginning, first of all, it was after having come out of Story Skills and Alt MBA, I had this grand plan around, well, I will be on camera at some point with someone doing something, but having no idea what that was. The ideas that were on paper were ideas on paper, and they felt flat. There was no dimensionality to them. They didn't. It hasn't felt like there was, that was going to be sort of something I was going to be engaged in for a long time. The other thing I expected is that she and I were going to have 1 2-hour conversation. If we got lucky. Because I understood there wasn't necessarily a time limit, but I figured, we might gather 60 to 90 minutes worth of conversation. So I sort of came to that first conversation with that sort of idea in mind. We ran for 2:15, 2:14, something like 2 hours 14. And then she told me there was 56 pages of transcripts. And then when will we do it again? And somewhere along the end, near the end of the second one, I realized, no, wait a minute, there's more than one of these conversations going to happen. And that opened up a whole nother sort of avenue in my mind around how this could go. So the expectation for the quality of the conversation was sort of open-ended. I wasn't sure. I had a handful of conversations with you, Helena, beforehand. I didn't know how this would go or where it would go, but I brought an open heart to the whole thing, knowing that it would do something. So it was delightful to find, once we engaged, that there was sort of an open agenda, and we sort of mapped out this idea of meandering for us and how that would go between you and I. And so that worked well. Over the course of what I also did not expect was that the experience would, well, I did expect that the experience would continue to have legs beyond the conversation itself. I did not expect the snippets to come and sort of be able to look at those and see what those are, but I found myself, as they've come, having new reactions to them, having new things to do. So there's this. I'm very used to the idea of opening myself to others and hearing how I sound with others, using that to reflect, using that to recover from moments. But I'm not used to having it recorded and be able to go, right. Or how many times did I say exactly? Or the phrase, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, yes. I've been given an assignment, which I haven't done, which is to go back and catalog how many times I did that. So.
I can invite you to the 150, 200 total pages of transcripts from Descript.
That would be,
you can just,
that would be lovely.
You can cheat, yeah.
Yeah.
You can search for it.
Yes, yes.
So it should be said, for those who don't know, all of these conversations are transcribed in order for us to work with them. So I put them through a transcription program that automatically transcribes the whole conversation. In case
and the transcriptions are not postable. They are far from postable, but they are good enough so that I can skim through them and find snippetable passages, so to speak. And sometimes I also listen to the raw recording at the same time, trying to figure out where's the starting point and end point here. So that's how we've been using this raw transcript because it's quite funny. There's some hilarious stuff, and I'm quite grateful that it's not just my English that turns up really wonky. It's you guys's too, and Frank and Beverly are born and bred English speakers, so it's like that's kind of a validation for me. It's like my English isn't
Yeah.
that bad. It's like everybody's English is apparently that bad.
There are days when I have running arguments with Siri because I try to use the.
Yep.
Oh man. Oh. I try not to take that personally.
Yeah,
Although-
and I can tell you soon what Caspian has an idea for how we will rebrand Tankespjärn, because that's one of the words that Descript just sends out in the most fun ways. We should actually kind of collate that together and see,
For sure.
Oh, make
for
a
sure.
word cloud.
make a word cloud of those. Because it's just hilarious.
My
now,
favorite is still Tankespjärn.
Tankespjärn, yeah.
No,
Which
no,
is
no.
2 words.
Yeah, and how does that come to your ears? What is it that you hear when that? Can you translate that to English for us?
No, because it's nonsense words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tankespjärn isn't nonsense words for us. It actually has some type of meaning. But
Yeah.
tonka, it's like, no, it doesn't exist at all. So it's quite fun. Yeah.
So Helena, what did you expect going into these conversations? It's like ever since the creatives workshop stopped in the summer of 2020, I've had regular Zoom conversations with Allison and Gary, for instance, and a couple of others. And I've so many times said, oh shit, we should have recorded this because man, there's some gold here. And I think that's what I've been sharing with Caspian, and he's just been waiting for the penny to drop, for the penny to drop, for the penny to drop, and it just did not drop until, I don't know, February of this year's, probably, when I was like, and he was like, when are you going to do something about a podcast? And I was like, well, I really don't like interview style podcast, and I really just I just want to talk to people. And he went finally, I think he was tired of the penny not dropping, so he kind of pulled the lever that kept it from dropping, because he said yes, precisely. And I went, you have an idea, I could do this. And he's like,
Well played, Caspian. Well played.
So at long last, it was like, okay, who do I ask and what will people say? And I asked 5 people, and all 5 people said yes, which made me very, very happy. And I think that was the extent of my expectations. This thing, I'm hoping that I will continue to have, enriching, fun, meandering conversations with these 5 people. And I was happy to add Mayke, Beverly, and Frank to the quintet, because you, Bev, and you, Frank, we haven't had any regular, this is our Zoom conversation time. Me and Mayke, we're in Campfire Sisters, so we meet up every month or so, usually with our 2 other Campfire Sisters, Vanessa and Natalie. So Mayke, I've been having conversations with for many years by now, but not so often just the two of us, Mayke. But whenever that happens, or also in the Campfire Sisters, Mayke is just, you're just such a wise woman. It's just so fun to talk to you. So I wanted to I think that's kind of a little bit what I wanted. I wanted to share these wise, lovely people with more of the world, even though it's not really a hit podcast yet, but who knows, right? So that's what I wanted. I wanted to have these fun conversations that I really enjoy and be able to actually record the gems as they happen so that I have them.
And moving on to sort of from expectation to actually having these conversations, you've all had 5 conversations with Helena, right? Over the course of almost 4 or 5 months, 6 even.
I think we started in March or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's quite a long time.
Yeah, so over half a year.
So what has happened for you guys during this time? Not sort of reciting your whole the all that has happened for the past 6 months, but sort of you all mentioned the urge to have conversations. You all mentioned the meandering in these conversations. What have you experienced in connection to the conversations? What has happened both when you've been in them and has anything changed outside of just these Zoom conversations? Has there been any changes? Has there been any I don't know, have you discovered anything in conversations with others as well?
It's gonna sound weird. I've discovered I have a voice. And by that, I don't just mean something to say, because, let's face it, I usually have something to say. But that the way I use my voice is something that other people actually like listening to, which I didn't know. That's both through the conversations with Helena and with other TCW and WIC experiences. I put out some recordings, I did some readings, and people kept commenting, "Oh my God, your voice." And I'm thinking, my voice? Okay. So it was something about myself I didn't know. Even though I have listened to recordings of myself, I usually think I sound like a 12-year-old. But just the fact that I have a tenor voice. But the fact, it's like suddenly I have this instrument and there becomes a responsibility to use it. So that was an interesting learning.
I have to second that. It's I have 2 places where I've honed my speaking skills. One's professional, the other's been therapeutic, and to have a space to talk about things outside of those 2 venues, to be able to have like a conversation which feels, I cited the conversation with my parents. And the thing about those conversations was that there was not an intentionality to that other than connection. There was not an intentionality of, needing to go through some therapeutic experience. There wasn't a need to, make sure that somebody gets what it is that I'm trying to say. But there's also, at the same time, this space to go as deeply into whatever we may be discussing as I might do in a therapeutic setting or I might do in a professional setting. And that kind of ability to range in other topics without the demand, without the need, was very enriching. And I was able to hear myself in a different way. I haven't had the feedback of how my voice sounds to others as a result of these conversations, what others are hearing in it. But I am sort of recovering from the feedback that I've gotten over the years around, going on a bit much, and that's been a struggle for me, to try to understand where is my, what's happening with me that I feel the need to go on and on about something, and how does that land with others? And so I'm still in this emerging process for myself of learning how to use the voice I've got. And so this has been really instructive in this sequence. The snippets in particular were powerful simply for the selection. The process that the two of you went through to select bits and pieces that resonated with you in some way, that's still working on me. That's still coming.
It sounds like you're a verbal processor, Frank.
It's curious. There is a time for me to do that in whatever work product I'm working with, whether it's a dedicated project to, for pay, or it's something I'm working. But I spend a lot of time caving as well. And, just sort of retreating and being with the piece and being with the work and being silent with it. I'm also quite kinesthetic. So there's, there will come a moment. And so I sort of inhabit all of these places, but there is definitely a place for me where I need to interact heavily with others.
Which is, I think, what I have both been helped to see here. I think it was in one of the conversations with Mayke where I finally connected dots back to when I went to therapy in 2006 and 2007, where I kind of remember how already then, pre-me blogging or anything, it's like as I was talking to friends about that is where I go, okay, yeah, now I see. It's like, so having the five of you to talk to during this 6 months has been really, really helpful for me, precisely because it's done what you point to, Frank. It's like it's like there's a mirror. So it's like, Beverly, you say voyage of mutual discovery is what these conversations are. So that has really been my experience for this. And then I would say I had kind of at the same time as this started, I made a profile on Badoo, a dating app. And when I've been talking to people outside, friends and stuff, everybody says, oh, what a crap piece of place to be. It's just shit. You can't have any good conversations there. And I'm going, I have the most amazing conversations. And you, Caspian, are the one who kind of pointed out that that's not to do with Badoo, that's to do with me. because I have deep, meaningful conversations wherever, and I do. And I think having had these 25 conversations with the 5 of you in this series has really just made me kind of both hone in on that and skip the rest, because I'm not very interested in the rest. So if it's not going into, okay, here's some depth here, here's some meandering, here's this wide open field, it's like I kind of say, nah, not interested, and just move on, you know? So I think that's what I've noticed for me outside of these conversations.
Yeah, for me, I guess what was a first, wow, I realize it, almost a first, by given a platform or a safe place to be listened to and to be seen. And now it comes up, probably, and I don't want to sound egoistical or something, but what it has given to me is parts of me. And it wouldn't have been born if you were not there. And I realized nowadays, maybe they call it conversation, and he says something, she says something, and then you can cut it, and then the story can live on separately. In this case, it can't, because there is a beginning of me being invited and come. And then, I didn't know it, but every time it became a love affair. After our conversation, my heart was open and I needed to tell you how much I loved you. And in the image of love affair, at first, I like it, I love it, and I dread it to undress. When two lovers approach one another and you want to become intimate, and I could feel that here. So, oh, me God, this will go public or something. So in the beginning, there is at least a bit of a mask, but to go through together, through something, and the mask, one after another, are dissolving. Oh my God. For me, that's orgastic, Helena. I love that so much. Yeah, it's about something would have been lost from me. And later on, when we start the together dance, and then I in a way I'm speaking, but you're so interwoven in what I'm speaking. I love it. And the word what Frank said about exactly, that resonates so much with me, because imagine in a conversation where one is repeatedly saying exactly. How many times of conversation do you hear or see on television where this word is used so repeatedly? For me, it's let's say, proof of the building together and finding one another. And there isn't an opposition or something. Okay. Amen.
Amen. Maybe that's the old definition of the word precisely or exactly. Amen.
Or it's the new one.
It's the new one, right?
It's affirmation, where so much of public discourse is oppositional. Getting affirmation is really nice.
Yeah.
It really is. And maybe that's also part of the key around all of this is that for me the audience for deeper conversations, I'm in a phase of my life where I'm reconstructing that. And there is an absolute delight and relief and enthusiasm that I find myself. Part of my ongoing reaction to it is I'm a little reserved in the engagement because there's a part of me that's a little brokenhearted about this. And to say so publicly and to say so, actually just out loud, without having written about this, without having discovered that idea in my downtime, my alone time, but to hear it from myself in response to all of our voices talking, that there's been a brokenheartedness in me that is taking time to decide whether I want to come back from it. It's not just that I'm coming back from it like the resilience is presumed. And that's part of the journey I'm having at the moment. That's the moment at which all of you have met me. And my unbridled enthusiasm, if you met me at all during the Story Skills Workshop at Akimbo in November of 2020, you would have found a sort of unbridled enthusiasm. And then in the months since, there's, I can bring that. But I'm aware there's a reservation in me about coming to this. And to get on the call with you 5 times, it's irresistible. There's a couple of people in my life for whom, when I get together with them, to have this ranging conversation, I know I'm in a place where I can have that conversation. I know the cues that you're giving me, the responses you're having, both in your gestures, in your voice, and the tenor of your voice, and the kinds of comments that you make in the exchange, or the kinds of questions that come up in the exchange. All of those add up to, okay, this is the kind of thing for that I miss so deeply, and is so vital to me. It is me finding my way back into community in a way that I don't have as much. I'm not guarding so much because I'm still guarding. And I've been guarding for a very, very long time, to the point where it's below the radar that I'm guarding. And so, there's an alchemy in the universe about my readiness to embrace this problem. I still won't say that I'm willing, because I can feel the reservation. I can still feel the decision like weighing on me. Right? But there's a readiness for me to look at it, at least. And so, I'm making space within myself for more of that to come. And some of those around me who aren't enthused by, who don't get necessarily enlivened by this kind of conversation, they get a little overwhelmed for whatever reason they are in their journey or their spirit, their character. There's been relief for them because I haven't, freighted our conversations with this. So, but yeah.
That has me in tears, so. And I guess that's one of the other things that I actually hope that people pick up on and hear in these conversations, that they're havable. You can have them. You can have this type of conversation. And I think the five of you who I've been speaking to, you're five quite different people. It's very much five different tonalities and tempos and is it big meanders, is it small meanders, do we stretch far, or are we moving in it's like it's very, the five of you vary, so that the 5 times 5 conversations with each of you are very unique. And that diversity is also something that I'm happy about. I'm thrilled, and I'm quite delighted that it's doable. It is havable. We can have these types of conversations with so many different types of people, and just show up and respond to what shows up, which is what Michael Neal of Super Coach Academy says about, that's what coaching is. And in a sense, I think that's what life is. It's show up and then respond to what shows up.
Yeah.
Some trust, which I think has been in short supply. You have to trust the person you're interacting with, which, of course, I do. And then you have to trust yourself, which is sometimes the bigger question.
Yeah, I think one of the episodes is named "We Don't Prepare, Yet Magic Happens," and I think that's been, it could equally have been the name of the podcast, really, because there has been magic in all of these conversations. That's sort of what ties them together, at least for me as an outsider. They are very different in tonality, in tempo, in subject. But there has been that sort of tingling spark of conversation.
It's a little bit like the TV show that in Swedish is called Här har du ditt kylskåp, which is some chef knocks on the door of a random house and says, it's like, give me half an hour and I'll make a 3-course dinner from what's in your fridge, or pantry or freezer or whatever. It's like, so here's your refrigerator is what the title of the show is. And it's kind of that. It's like, sitting down and just, okay, what's here?
That's good.
And then you just kind of, here it was, some type of conversation. But it might be very different depending on what's in the fridge today.
Please, Mike.
I guess that's what you did and who you are. You are the chef, and you ring my bell, and then you made clear already that I have a fridge. Yes. Oh, wow. And there is something in it. And you learned to see the worth of what's in it. And what a lovely meal you cook of it.
There's the magic again. Yeah, Mikey?
Yes.
Yeah. And the love affair. I mean, that's, the imagery from both of those things resonate for me. And the idea of magic resonates for me. So to hear, that you had that experience, Caspian, in listening to these conversations after the fact, as you were working through the labor of it, right, is magnificent. It's really reaffirming, because there's, I think part of the guarding that I have is, I find these conversations really interesting and really cool and really, like, I enjoy them thoroughly. But I don't feel self-centered enough or confident enough. Maybe self-centered is the wrong notion, but I don't feel confident enough that it's widely shared. Or at least that there's others who would be listening in on this, to what I have to say, or a conversation that I'm having with somebody who I have a great affinity with. So it's really marvelous to hear that feedback from the outside, because it just, at the moment I could use a bout of it. I could use the affirmation, Beverly. I could use the supporting idea that, yeah, this is good. This is stuff that people need to hear. Or at least they enjoy, they get something out of that. There is magic in it. There's something happening as they're listening to us conversing that's helping them open up to see this, to see the possibilities. And that was another thing that was another theme that was so marvelous that came up again and again in our conversations, Helena, was the notion of how do you cultivate possibility? How do you keep your eye on, not just, to break the habit, Mayke, of, going to the refrigerator and constantly seeing the part that's not working, but to go to the world in whatever form it presents itself that day and say, yeah, this is pretty cool. We could do something with this. Look at that. And be having that kind of affirmative experience. So yes, more, please.
And I just made another connection that I haven't really made before. So in one of the earliest conversation number 2 with Gary or something, I just burst out how I love living life and how, it's like it's never been better being me in the world than what it is right now. And I haven't seen how important these conversations actually have been to that. They are such a large part of that, because it does give me this sense of seeing and being seen, speaking and hearing, listening to, being listened to. It's like it's helping me discover and be in the feeling of this is what is right here, right now. Here's these 4 people, and just it. I don't. It's like it just expands me. It makes me feel wholer, or well, it just fills me with gratitude and just this sense of, you know, that's the sense. It's just lovely.
Sense of real connection. It's something that's not filtered through an Instagram feed, which becomes very artificial, or contracted by time. It's like, hi, how you doing? Gotta go. It allows, these conversations have been allowed space to flower. So it's very organic, and it is, that sense of connection is very real.
Mhm. Yeah, I think organic has been, or that's probably a good word to describe all of them, all of the conversations that you guys have had. Again, speaking from the outside, I haven't been in there in the Zoom conversations. I've been a fly on the wall afterwards, but they felt human and organic, for sure, for sure. I'm curious, both Mayke and Frank and to some extent both Helena and Beverly as well. All of you mentioned that there's been a light shunned shown
We'll help you with that.
on yourself from these conversations. Sort of seeing new parts of yourselves.
Mhm.
Could you just sort of speak to that? Say something more about it. Why do you think it happens? What is it? What has the experience been with having light shown on yourself, by yourself, or by the conversation?
Because then you come to light. Before that, the image pops up about a white fly on a white wall. So it's the old story about interconnectedness. So I become more me in connecting with you. And if there is someone in front of you who is so willing and opening up and sharing herself so deeply, so that's extremely inviting. So that there is, if I put myself in a circle, I'm in the circle, but there is also something of me that's outside myself, where the other outsideness of the other ones will meet. So something, the magic pot. Okay, in the love affair, that's our baby, Hella and my baby. And Frank and Helena baby, and Beverly's, and that's the
That's the magic.
yes. And then what happens? I sometimes I don't look much to the television, the TV, the daily journal or something. And if I do, if I so much is happening in my body, it's constantly contracting, and never see anyone who is willing to open up, and I start to cry, and I can't believe. And this is the opposite of it. This is life-giving. And it's so confirming. So probably I take something from it with me, and then it's paying forward, so I can bring it into the world after that. Very, very small, yeah. But it surely, it happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tears again.
I realize, oh wow, probably this is what Jesus said, go and multiply thyself.
Yeah. That's
And
right.
this is what we can do. So in between two people, more people, we have the ability, we are musicians, we are able to create. Isn't this lovely? And I can say these conversations, I have a few more, and they kept me sane in this world and in the last years.
Loaves of bread.
Mm.
There's I think that when you first started speaking, Mayke, the thing that occurred to me was this sort of experience that I have of affirming my my existence. You know, there's this existential kind of validation, right? But that the result of doing that is this unpacking. The result of this is when I'm by myself and I'm quiet, there's this multidimensionality to my existence that I'm constantly, I can be in awe of, or I can be under the weight of, you know, and sometimes I'm tumbling with all of that. But it's in the interaction with another. There's reference to facilitating, you know, the facilitating other in some psychological work around, you know, what that brings out in me. And there are surprises and delights that come out all the time. You know, the magic for me is that it's not just that. I mean, the validation and affirmation that I get just sort of living an adult existence in the expected narrative is that I have some credential and I got some job for that. And somehow collectively with many people I'm interacting with, we've forgotten that that's not the entirety of our being. That there's this world of me. There's this world of you beyond that. I live in a place where the sort of notorious joke is that the small talk has to do with exchanging credentials within the first 5 minutes. And based on what transpired there, you know, that defines the remainder of the conversation. That defines the remainder of the relationship. And it's a bit of a, you know, tongue in cheek, but I happen to live in a neighborhood where we can expand that a little bit. So I feel fortunate there. But I've had the experience for much of my young life of, I'm just this guy with this credential, I go to that job. What more is there to me? And what you've talked about here, the way you spoke of that, Mayke, to bring that from, you know, the white fly on the white canvas to loaves of bread, you know, that I am multiplicity, but I can't be multiplicity. I can't express it if I don't have somebody else who's I'm engaging with. I don't get a flower from a bud unless there's space, unless there's energy, unless there's light. And we provide that for each other somehow. It's just mind-blowing.
The, It is the way I phrase, I think, the same things that you and Mayke were saying, Frank, is that for me, these conversations have provided a context that helps provide meaning for the things in my life that are important to me,
Yeah.
as opposed to that are important from the outside, so that it is validating, it is reflecting, it is saying this thing, whatever we're focused on at that minute, whether it's becoming a professional or being a full person or getting to travel, that has meaning, that radiates outward as well.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'm recalling as you're sharing, Beverly, that I had a moment with two people in my life this summer, and it has not occurred to me to trace its origins back to this conversation, perhaps, where it was a classic pattern of me expressing sort of mildly what it was that I wanted to do or how I wanted to handle a situation, and they were making their contributions to my decision making, and that my response to them was this unexpectedly forceful phrasing of, well, that might not be so important to you, but it's really important to me, so this is what I'm going to be doing. And I'm no stranger to sort of speaking truth to power, or like engaging in something, but in places where I expect to, I need to have some, where I expect more, I don't know, camaraderie about something, and I wasn't feeling it. It's very unusual for me to have just stepped up and said, hey, no, this is what's important to me in this personal space, in this personal decision making of mine. So I might, to the question you'd asked earlier, Caspian, about how has these conversations affected. I'm more than willing to attribute that to here, because for me to be able to express and to say on personal matters where it's more an issue of preference than it is a hard decision that's clearly yes or no. I would very much prefer this, or I find this important. And when I think about voice, as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, Beverly, this is something that I've been struggling with for a good decade and a half too, is what is my voice in the space? And that guarding I was referring to a little while earlier. There's this dynamic in me around, it's not that there's a question of whether I have a voice. It's specifically what is the content, and specifically what is the tone. Specifically, what are the expressions that I will choose in space and time, and what you've done with your expression is now my mind is going into these other places of, right, this is what's important to me. And so thank you for reminding me of this.
Doesn't it also make you think about what responses you're willing to accept from other people? Spaces is so open and curious. I've been in meetings twice recently where I offered a suggestion that was immediately, pretty nastily responded to. And it's like, don't want to accept that kind of response. That's not okay. If somebody offers a thought to, basically say, oh, you're just stupid.
Right.
You don't say that in a professional setting. You don't say that.
No, you really don't.
And so it's like, wait a minute, that was not cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does make me think about, what are acceptable responses. And I think that part of the guard and part of the brokenheartedness and part of the retreat has to do with I don't know that it falls into the category of acceptable responses, but it certainly falls under the category of responses in the range of responses I would have expected. And, for me, part of the brokenheartedness is that I have a range of expectations and they're not met. And that's, that feels like a slightly separate conversation from what you're saying. But it was the first thing that I thought of. And then what does seem common to both of those ideas is that depending on the situation I'm in, I don't know quite what to do with that. There are some instances where I feel perfectly empowered to say, hang on a minute, let's shift a little bit here, where I can address it head on. But there's as many situations where it's not necessarily my meeting, or it's not clear that it's professionally appropriate for me to, call that out. So
is this my hill to die on?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, that's well phrased. Well phrased. Because that is the decision making that's going on in my mind, And if it goes on enough, the other decision I'm making is, I hope they're doing okay over there, because I don't think that's about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too. It's like, whoa, what's going on with this person who is not responding how they have in the past?
Yeah. 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 And I found out something about a colleague that they'd been going through, and that just changed a lot. I could look back over the previous some period of time of exchanges and go, oh, well, yes. And it's one of the early adulting lessons that I remember being specifically drawing my attention. Oh, yes, it's not always about me, and then the follow-on, which is, I hope they're okay. To try to expand my heart and to keep my curiosity and my open-heartedness intact. Because I think that is something that also I can lose. It seems a perishable skill. And something I want to continue to be able to use again and again and again is the ability to look at an exchange that I'm having that feels unpleasant to me and have a generous thought back and have generous response back. That's the person I want to be. That's the person I've shown that I've seen that I can be in difficult situations. That is the person that when we are engaged in this forum, in this format, among the six of us, the five of us, or I'm one-on-one with you, that portion of me is among my favorite portions of me. It's the part of me that I most enjoy and that I want to bring to all situations.
And it's so interesting about this thing is like, in the past year or so, it's like I'm more actively bringing all of me into situations like this. I feel in my body what does my body tell me about this? If somebody says something and I go, because my mind can spin off and just create the most enormous, mind fucks, right? But my body is usually kind of, it's like sinking feeling to the stomach, or heart palpitations, or just, dizzy, or, it's like so I'm coming to interactions perhaps with more of me, or willing to listen to more of me, because I've been a head footer type of person, talking head, not much more. Which also is something that having all these conversations with all of you is also enabling to a large extent. It's like there's no rush to fill a gaping void of silence. It's like it can be silent for a little while. And, I can look out and, I kind of figure that all of you by now know that when I do that, it's like there's something about to form. And it's given time and space and room to form, which is just, it's not always given that. But you get or I get kind of addicted to it. It's like I'm not very interested in people who don't. It's like, nah, I can go spend time with people who do. Even though I also do think it is a trainable skill.
Takes exposure and cycle time.
Yeah.
You've got to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think that's part of the delight in being here, is that I can look forward to more exposure and cycle time and get used to this. Yeah. Used to not being alone with my thoughts. And I think that I've wondered in time about, am I, is there some sort of pathology happening with me where I have a focus issue? Or is it the case that, as Jill Bolte Taylor points out, if we would all just sort of be in touch with the right side of our brains a little more often, magical things happen, and then training myself to be engaged in that right side and notice in this moment the wonder of this moment and the wonder of the color that there's 3 reds and 2 blacks on the screen in the shirts, and Helena's tying it all together because she has red over the black. It's magnificent, and it's that's kind of this right side. Let the world be beautiful and me be within. And the word integrity comes to mind, and the word organic, where there's the Frank Lloyd Wright's definition of organic was more than the sum of its parts. And integrity being, I bring all of me when I come. So this ranging mind of mine, yes, I do have some focus issues. I might have been diagnosed as ADHD by now, had I been, heavily involved. But I think the alternative interpretation is that I'm really curious about a lot of things, and I have a restless soul and a restless mind. And how do I make use of that in the world? And which responses do I find acceptable and which do I not? And how do I engage?
And it's so interesting to hear you say that, because I would never in a lifetime say, if somebody asked me about Frank, can you describe Frank? I would never say that you're a person who lacks focus. It's like I would never. It would never occur to me. It just, it's like no, not at all. So
Right, and
mean,
so
we do have some data to prove that at least, the bar put very low. We have 2 hour 50 minutes conversations where you've had focus on the conversation for the full time.
well, and that's an
Just
interesting.
leaving that on the table.
And this is a fascinating piece of feedback around the narrative I have in my head about me and the world, and the experience others have of me. And I think, that builds on, where you began, Mayke, with the whole idea of, my existence. How am I expressing in the world, and what's the dimensionality of me in the world? And that part of the processing, the verbal processing, has to do with me rebuilding my own narrative about me and about the world on a regular basis. Because coming back from heartbreak, of whatever description, of whatever level of validity others may find, it's a valid heartbreak for me, and it's a valid set of hurdles that I see from where I sit. Is that I need that feedback from others to help me understand, yes, that might be a story I'm continuing to tell myself, that I'm having a hard time focusing. When the reality may be, I have plenty of capacity to focus. Could this be about something else? It's not a pathology within me. It's just that narrative just gets wound a little tight and plays a little too much. And so I start focusing on that, and that becomes the problem to solve, but it's the wrong diagnosis. And so I need help to understand.
Which again, Beverly speaks to this voyage of mutual discovery, right?
And I teach graduate students communication skills. So I see in them a very wide range of skills that they already have and thoughts about their own skills. And virtually none of them come out of that class without adding to the skills they already have. And in some ways, they're all like, oh God, I did this. I said, yeah, and you did this and this and this, using those same skills. Mm-hmm. It's that shift in perspective. I've had students with learning differences in my classes, and it's not about finding a way to use the strengths they have to be successful is where that goes. So whether the time you can, we have so many distractions. I often feel like I have no brain left because it's like after I get interrupted the third time, it's like gone. I'm done. Yeah. So that's outside stuff. Were you thinking about trying to find focus? It's like you have to actually want to focus on it, and sometimes that's the real. It's like, do I really want to focus on it? Like, well, hell no. That's the most boringest thing I ever heard of.
Well, so there is that.
It's not attention deficit. There's no deficit. There ain't no attention there to be a deficit. Not it.
Oh my. And half the psychiatric pharmaceutical community just cringed.
That's good. They need cringing.
It's like, what's his face? The pedagogics, Sir
Ken Robinson.
Ken Robinson. Yes. I love him.
Your daughter isn't. She doesn't have ADHD. She's a dancer.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that story.
It's an amazing one. Really is.
And
Mike, you look like you're pondering something.
Thank you so much. No, yeah, it's about to bring it back to our conversation. It's about to be seen for who you truly are. And it's also about the seer. You look with different eyes, or what your eyes are connected with from the inside out is different. Or you see labels, or you see a very lively child. And I guess one of the reasons why Helena's project is so successful is about this, to truly see, the willingness to truly see who's in front of you.
Indeed. I thought we sort of to round it off softly. It's so wonderful to hear you speak to the experiences of these conversations and what has happened within all of you. I would like to spend some time speaking about what you're bringing with you into the future. Because, I mean, obviously you're all going to speak to Helena more in the future. I mean, just from the look of Helena's face, I know... I know all of you will. Possibly recorded, possibly not. But what are you bringing with you from these conversations into the future from here on out? Well, what are the tangibles that you're sort of, okay, I've got this in my backpack now. I'm going to use this tool. I'm going to use this thought or just this feeling. What's something that you're bringing with you from these conversations?
there's a sense of possibility that you can inject into almost any conversation, that sense of openness and being willing to follow a conversation where it wants to go and to follow it with an open heart. That's very sweet.
Say something more about that.
It takes both a sense of trust and of openness and vulnerability, and because of that, some personal strength to be able to go into a conversation and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to ask that question. I'm going to be able to hear the answer and reflect back what I hear, that it's okay to be open about this subject that maybe not everybody's open about. That it makes you bright enough to wade into the ocean. Is that I think there are infinite possibilities for conversations, that no two people are going to mix the same. And the likelihood is that I'll wander into some conversation that it'll be a mistake. But I think, okay, I'll just back out of that one. but more of them are going to be amazing than not.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
right.
think because every time I talk to Helena, it's been amazing. It's like, wow, there's so much possibility to carry forward.
Third time's a charm.
I think one of the things that I might take forward is the notion that when I come to a conversation with somebody or I'm in a space with somebody, that I can signal that there's room for the meander. And it's not just in the saying so, it's the setting aside of the time, the creation of letting others in my world know that I'm about to be engaged in a conversation for some time, and inviting that other person into the space to let them know that this is an open-ended conversation. We'll let it run for a while and just be present with each other. That there might be something I could do that was more intentional that way is something I think I'll be pondering as something I can take forward, because it is sweet to be able to do this.
And powerful.
There's that. Yep. Yep. Transformative.
Yeah.
Transformative.
Yeah, I guess for me as well. Now I feel I've been in the position when Helena could feed me the ice creams, and I ate it wholeheartedly. But to become more aware of your position, Helena, about creating a container and what's needed to become pure and question, I guess, the kind of questions you ask. And underneath that is because I experience so much the value of being seen. Probably it has to do with creating more space for the other to hear themselves. Yeah, I guess it's that. And it feels a bit like summer is a start, it's one drop, and your drop, Helena, and it's the circle, it's widening and widening and widening. Yeah, that.
Oh, the imagery is just marvelous. Thank you.
Love you. I need to say it again. Love you.
I love you too, Mike. Yeah, I think I will carry forth what I have been carrying forth. I mean, I'm kind of, I'm 5 times luckier than you guys because I've had 5 times conversations with each of you 5 people. So just this, it's interesting though, because it is this thing of being open, being willing for, it's like I step into any interaction with any new person or old person, known person, perhaps I should say, from this open and kind of, yeah, you said pure, Mayke. I want to say naked, kind of, it's like, I don't need to know where are we going, what are we going to get accomplished, what's the agenda, it's like, without that. And I'm also, discernment has been a word for me in this past year, where it's also, I'm one person and I have all of the energy available in my life and I have 24 hours to a day, just like everybody else. And I get to choose. I can be discerning. If I'm not met with that openness, if I'm not met there, I have a choice. I can say, okay, I'll give it, another 5 minutes, another 5 days, another whatever. Or I can say, no, thanks, but no thanks, and sort of shift to another possibility. So it links to those possibilities, Beverly, that you spoke to too. That I don't have to chase this. Because if I'm open to it, I will meet other who will, they will resonate on exactly the same frequency and we'll just start to dance, It's like, I don't have to stick to people who are on a totally different frequency. It's like, no, I don't need to do that. And it's not, I have the better frequency, you're on the worst one, or, it's just, we're on different frequencies. It's like, okay, you move ahead that way and find somebody who's on your frequency. And I think I'm honing that skill as much as I'm honing the skill of opening and being vulnerable and kind of generous with who I am, how I am, what I am, and not. I've kind of stopped shoving myself down the throat of other people, which I think I did much more when I was younger. Not to be taken literally, but just this, it's like, yeah, you get to try people on for size and see, are we resonating or not?
One of the benefits of getting older is that you get less worried about the or not part.
Yeah.
It's so much, again, it's so much fun to hear you guys speak about this and to have you all in the same room and to hear you reflect on your individual experiences and the collective experience of being in these conversations. I would like to just leave sort of not asking a question, rather just leaving the floor of, is there anything else that you would like to for the listeners, for the group, for Helena? Is there anything else you feel like you haven't said, the point that hasn't come across just a happy reminder, just anything really. Is there anything left being said that hasn't been said already?
My deep gratitude and appreciation for being in the presence of you, Helena, who has made yourself available to the universe in this way, so that others of us who are on that journey can find you, and it's clear that you've made yourself available very actively to those of us who have come and are participating in whatever forum we may have met you in the beginning. It seemed like every the Story Skills workshop that I thought, I didn't want to go check in on that, and I'd get there, you'd already been there. It seemed like there wasn't a single person where you hadn't already been. And that kind of availability and the energy and the effort that you've put into that, I want to acknowledge how much it's meant to me and how powerful it's been. And how magical it all feels to me, because despite me being aware of that I need it and that I'm willing, sometimes the universe, sometimes I'm on the wrong frequency. And, glad to have dialed in. So, and also thank you to you three as well. And I look forward to more conversations with you. We've met a couple times, Beverly, on other forums with Helena. I've not been able to make those in a while. It's marvelous to hear your voice, Mayke. And I hope we all get a chance to talk more. And you're constantly on my list of people to call, Caspian, for no particular reason, with no agenda in mind. Just say hi. How are you? How's it going? How many times did I say exactly? Whatever it may be.
I'll compile
So thank
all
you
this
all.
for you.
So thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Frank.
I think what jumped into my mind when you asked the question, Caspian, is there's a phrase in a song, this, may you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. And I remember that because it's like, wait, no, I don't ever feel small standing beside the ocean. What I feel is blessed. And that's kind of that same feeling. There's something big, broad, powerful, and wonderful in front of me. And that's the way I've felt in these conversations, that I'm getting the privilege of walking into that. So it's amazing. Thank you.
Caspian, I want to say to you, you're in this. You're in it. I'm telling you a bit as if you are out and looking from the outside in. I tell you, you're in it. You're part of this. And I'm thankful for that, what you're doing and make things possible. And for Helena, I'm so happy you've invited me and us to your party. I love it when you say that you love life. And it warms my heart because I don't see or hear many people saying this out loud. And I guess because of this, you could build this party. And I'm really enjoying the cake and all that came with it. Thank you so much. You are a bright star.
Yeah. Right back at ya. Kind of. But yeah, you guys are a large part of why I love living life as me. A large part of it. And it's so fascinating. There's so many absolutely wonderful people around. And I'm drawn to you. I'm drawn to the possibilities of what is. And I'm, filled to the brim with, when you, Frank, you said something about whatever it was, the beauty of the world and you being within it. It was just blows my mind. Beverly does the same. And Mayke with that white fly on the white wall. It's just, it's like, there's a book that I read a couple of years ago called When Air Turns to Breath. No, When Breath Turns to Air, Paul something or other. It's a marvelous book, and the language is so beautiful. And the story itself is worth reading the book for, but the language, the beauty of the language is worth reading the book for too. And I'm just, I'm so blessed to spend time with people who also give me that. You also nourish me with the beauty of words, the beauty of phrases, the beauty of silence. And yeah. And Caspian, yes, you are very much a part of this. Without you, no pod. So,
Thank you.
Very much so. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. This has been wonderful. Truly.
Yeah, it has.
Yes, thank you.
And the best part is, me, Caspian, we get to do it again with Allison and Gary. It's like I can push the bitter sweetness of this first season ending. One more. It's like, ooh. And I have one more Allison episode to record as well. Yeah. Because that was actually one of my, it's like, how am I going to stop meeting up with you guys regularly? Stop recording. Stop putting your wisdom out there. How? And then I realized I cannot start another season of 5 times 5 and continue with you guys, because it's like, cannot. So it's like, okay, for now, we'll pause recordings with you guys, and then who knows. But never pausing, being in connection and conversation with you. So you're stuck
Amen.
for life. Yeah.
Amen.
That door is now open.
That's right.
That door is now open. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a great day.
Yep.
All of
Oh man, yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Best wishes to all of you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.